What's up everybody and welcome back to another Overwatch League discussion video, and today we're going to be talking about game 1 of the Overwatch League Grand Finals between the Fusion and the Spitfire, as it was a tiny bit of a disappointment. I did think it was a very enjoyable experience, but I think that there were a few maps that were not too competitive, so we're going to talk about all of that plus a lot more. So first things first, I'm going to talk a little bit about each map that was played. Not too much. We're not going to go into crazy detail because that's not my style. But also I'm going to be mentioning some problems that I saw from the Fusion on each map. Maybe even a little about the Spitfire, but it's kind of hard to point out issues they had since they played so great. But also, I'm going to tell you guys what I think the Fusion need to do to get back into this series and possibly even win it. I'd also like to give out a player of the match to somebody, but we'll get to that a bit later. So, without wasting any more time, let's get started with map number 1. So map number 1, aka the only map the Fusion were able to win, was Dorado, and this map was fairly close, and you can't really say that about every map that was played, so this was definitely one of the better games we saw. And we started off with a Fusion on the attack, and they're kind of just doing their thing. They're struggling to get through. They're a team that always keeps scrapping and fighting. That's what they do. They're the underdogs after all. And in the end, they were able to just barely finish out the map, but they had to do it in overtime through some really clutch plays from guys like Carpe and Boombox. But then they switched sides, and I think if you were a Fusion fan, you started to get a little worried because they got rolled on point A and point B while they were trying to defend. And in the end, the Spitfire had like 5 minutes in the time bank, 5+ minutes I'm pretty sure. But we've seen this story before. The Fusion get rolled on Dorado through the first 2 points, but then all of a sudden they become gods on defense, and they just have this crazy point C defense where they hold off the attackers. And just like with the Excel, the same thing happened to the Spitfire. They were just not able to get through this wall that the Fusion built on their defense. Like, it was insane. I could not believe the Spitfire did not finish this map and they ended up losing. Like, I couldn't believe it. They just, for a while, they couldn't even get the payload around the corner. That's what it felt like. And when they did, it was just too late at that point. I couldn't really identify an issue for either team during Dorado. I think they both played very well, but in the end, the Fusion's will was just greater. I mean, I guess you could say the Spitfire were doing something wrong if they had over 5 minutes in the time bank and they just couldn't finish the map. Like, that is kind of strange, especially for a team that's as good as them. But anyway, that's all I have to say about Dorado. Let's move on to map number 2 now, which was Oasis. And if you were a Fusion fan, I think in most circumstances, you would be very excited going into this map just because statistically, this is the Spitfire's worst map. They're very bad on it during the regular season, but the playoffs, they've looked like a completely different beast on that map. And I think that's an understatement. Oasis was very lopsided, and in the end, the Spitfire dominated Oasis, and they got that easy 2-0 victory on it. And honestly, the biggest problem that I saw from the Fusion on this map was the fact that they were sticking on compositions that just weren't working. Like, especially, I think it was on University, when the Spitfire were running an Orisa, they decided to keep on running the Ryan Zarya, which can work, but you kind of want to run a more mobile composition. Like, you want to run a dive comp against a comp like this because they're very slow. It's hard for them to do anything about it. They should have switched to Winston and Diva, but they just wouldn't do it. They stuck on the Reinhardt and the Zarya, and I honestly think they paid for it big time. And on Gardens, when they switched on over to that part of the map, I think that the Fusion just got outplayed big time. Nothing else for me to say there. So now let's move on to map 3, which was Eichenwald. So Eichenwald, kind of like with Oasis, was definitely in favor of the Spitfire. The Fusion just couldn't really get anything going. They were able to at least capture the first point, and they made a little bit of progress on the payload. But one of the big issues they were having, kind of like with Oasis, was they were refusing to switch off of certain heroes. And I think this especially goes for EQO. I know a lot of people in the Twitch chat were saying EQ throw, and honestly, I kind of agree. He was sticking on the Pharah for way too long, especially with Bird Ring being on the Widowmaker and everything. Like, I just felt like that was a big reason that they were failing. They needed him to switch to Hanzo or some other hero a lot earlier. Like, I just didn't think it was necessary to still be on the Pharah for that long. I understand that he wanted to get the barrage off, but He should have switched even though he had that ultimate online, especially because Pharah's ultimate is just so easy to deny with heroes like D.Va and Winston. It's easy for them to just absorb it and even make the Pharah kill herself in the end. Like, I'm sorry, EQO, but you kind of threw on this map a little bit, buddy. You definitely should have switched off of the Pharah a lot earlier. And I also think that it's worth noting that the Fusion ran that same strat that they did against the Excel, where they sub out Boombox and they bring in Poco. Then they have Hotba kind of take care of all of their needs that Boombox would usually fill. You could have him play Roadhog, he plays the Tracer, he even plays a little bit of Zen even though he's not great at it. And then you have Poco play D.Va, which is a specialty. I love me some Poco, he's a great player. He could also just run whatever else you need him to do on off tank, but this strat did not work. It just didn't, because they lost. The Fusion only got like halfway through the map, and the Spitfire, even though they struggled a little bit on their point A attack, after they captured the objective, that was it. It was an easy clap from there. Then in Game 4, we head on over to Volskaya Industries, where the Spitfire were able to finish off the Fusion and claim the first match in the series and go up 1-0. And kind of like with Dorado, this was a close map. It was pretty entertaining. The Fusion, obviously, they didn't do great on their attack, but they were doing pretty well on the defense for the most part, but the Spitfire just broke out all the clutch plays in the end. They wanted to end this series now. They did not want to go to that decisive map 5. It is something that they just didn't feel like doing, especially because I'm pretty sure it was Junkertown, if I remember correctly, and this Fusion have been playing pretty damn well on that map, so yeah, they wanted to end this thing now and just get it over with. And you really have to give a lot of credit to Fury and Prophet. They were breaking out the huge plays. Fury was getting like a bunch of self-destruct kills, especially on my boy Neptuno, which is a damn shame. This is a big reason I think the Fusion lost. Neptuno just could not avoid these D.Va bombs for some reason. Usually he's very good at staying alive, but Fury was bodying him straight up. And also Prophet was just a legend, I think. Birdring too, but Prophet was legendary with how well he was playing during this map, especially when they went on the point B attack and he got those crucial picks to help win the game. Like, he got 3 picks on the final push. That is insanely clutch. And how about before that super hype moment when him and Birdring, just the two of them, were able to get a single take on point B, like just the two of them. No one else was there. They were able to kill everyone off of the point that was there. That was absolutely insane for me. A very, very enjoyable moment on the night. And yeah, that was it. That was the end of the match for the night. And congrats to Spitfire for getting things done and breaking out all the clutch plays they needed to win Volskaya, because that was a very hard fought and well-deserved win on that map for them. And while we're talking about the Spitfire, let me just say, if they want to end up winning tomorrow, whether it's in the first set or in the second set, depending on how well the Fusion play, they just need to keep doing what they're doing, honestly. I've said this before in the past, right after they beat the Valiant, if they just keep playing at a super high level, I don't think anyone can stop them. At this point, I think the only way that they get stopped is if they start playing worse than they're doing right now. And even if they do, I'm not sure if that'll be enough still. Like, I think that Jester, Prophet, and Birdring all need to just stop popping off for a second. Even Fury, too. He's been a beast as well. But I just don't see it happening. Honestly, the Spitfire are probably going to continue to play at this level. It all depends on the Fusion now, though. If the Fusion want to get back into this thing and eventually end up winning the series tonight, I think that they're going to have to make some big-time changes. For one, they need to work on switching off of comms when things aren't working, and they got to do it fast, like the Spitfire. You notice that with the Spitfire, whenever something isn't going well for them, they switch. They always make the switches, and the Fusion, I'm used to them doing that as well, but they just weren't doing it during this game. I don't know what happened, but like I said, during Oasis, they continued to run a Reinhardt and Zarya into a Orisa Hog, and you kind of want to just switch off of that at that point. You want to run your mobile comp, run your dive comp, do what you got to do, and also EQO needs to stop EQ throwing. I'm sorry, I know, that was bad, I'll stop. But yeah, EQO needs to learn to switch off of heroes like Pharah when they're not working, and go on to something more effective that can eventually help turn the tide. We're all talking about how EQO is a star, he's Carpe's partner in crime, but Prophet just outplayed him. He was playing so much smarter, he was making so many more clutch plays, and that also reminds me, I think Carpe's got to try and pop off a little more. I know he played relatively well during this match, but I think he needs to do more. He needs to hard carry even more, and EQL's got to step up as well, because honestly, it looked like Prophet and Birdring just outplayed those boys yesterday. So the Fusion DPS definitely need to step up. That's something that needs to happen if they want to win and just keep hope alive for the fans of Philly. I also think that Neptuno needs to do a better job of staying alive. I know it's not entirely his fault, but he died to multiple self-destructs, and he's got to figure things out. He's got to do a better job of using his cover. Especially on Volskaya, I noticed when the Spitfire were going for their point A attack, and Fury kind of just sent that self-destruct right over the buildings. There was an opportunity for Neptuno to escape, but he wasn't sure where the bomb was going to land, and instead of being unsure where the bomb's landing, just run into cover, run inside the building. He was right next to the doorway. It was very unfortunate. So yeah, keep your supports alive, Fusion. I think that's one step to success, but also your DPS definitely have to play better, and you also need to switch off of certain heroes and comps when they're not working. And that's it. I think the Fusion could get back into the series if they do those things. I know it might not be enough in the end, but I definitely think making these things happen will help them. Now it's time for me to hand out player of the match. And for a while, like I'd say through the first 3 maps, I was going to give it to Jester probably, just because he was playing incredibly well. He was getting a ton of picks. He was just playing very smart overall, which is something I'd expect from one of the best main tanks in the world. But after Volskaya Industries happened, I have to give it to Prophet. Prophet was so incredibly clutch. Like, first off, on point B, he was able to get an entire tick just by himself of capture progress. Birdring helped him cap it, but Prophet was getting a lot of kills during that push. But then also on the final push of point B, where they just needed a little bit more of capture progress to win, he goes out there and gets 3 picks on Tracer. 3! He kills half of the Fusion all by himself. This is what ultimately led to the Spitfire getting the dub. Definitely. So in the end, I'm giving player of the match to Prophet for playing incredibly clutch when his team needed it most. If you are a subscriber around here and you've seen my Overwatch League Grand Final prediction video, you all know that I picked the Fusion to win the series 2-1, and I'm a man of my word. I'm sticking with it. I know the Spitfire are clearly the better team right now. They're playing just at a higher level, but I'm not going to change my decision now. I'm not going to turn my back against the Fusion. I've done it before, and look what happened. Now they're here in the Grand Final. So I'm still saying Fusion 2-1, even though it doesn't look super likely. I'm not changing my pick. I'm a man of my word. And that's just about going to do it here, I think, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button, because it tells me you want to see more Overwatch League content here on the channel. Also, if you're new around here, hit that subscribe button and enable those notifications so you don't miss the next Overwatch League video. I will be making a video probably later tonight or on Sunday morning. It all depends. But yeah, stay tuned for that as well. Thank you all so much for watching. It really does mean the world to me, and I'm out of here. Peace.